Hello, and this is Boogass Reviews, and today I'm going to be doing a review on the DC Multiverse Aquaman action figure. So before we take a look at Aquaman, let's take a look at the accessories that he comes with. So first up, he comes with the right leg of Steppenwolf. You can see that the leg is actually really big, like as compared to Aquaman. That's where it comes on Aquaman, or that's where it comes to on Aquaman. Let me try and get him to stand up there. So you can tell that Steppenwolf is actually going to be a really big Build-A-Figure. And up next, we've got his trident. It's got some nice sculpting detail to it. It did come out of the package kind of warped, so that does bother me a little bit. You could straighten that out by holding a hairdryer on it or just dropping it into some boiling water. It's got some nice sculpting there on the handle. The actual trident itself, it's got a little bit of sculpting. This is actually a different color than the one that we got from the Batman vs. Superman. They're actually the same thing, but this version is gold, and this one is silver. I do like the gold better. I think that just, I don't know, I like the gold better. So getting this in Aquaman's hand is very tricky. Like, his hand out of the package, that's my only complaint about this figure. Well, one of two complaints, is that his wrist just kind of just swivels freely. And part of it is because it was melted into the package. And second of all, it's because this trident doesn't really want to go into his hand very well. And you can see that when he's holding it, if you do that, then his hand starts to angle. Because the peg is very flimsy. And I might have to boil some water and pop the peg out and maybe reinforce it with something. I don't know how I'd do that, but it definitely needs reinforced because I feel like it's going to break. And his other hand is just a fist. I wish it would have been an open hand, that way he could hold his trident with both hands. You know, this bothers me, because he mostly holds it with two hands, and he can't. You can just get him doing this, which doesn't look right. I suppose a certain way you hold it, it doesn't look too bad, but I still would have preferred an open hand. So for the head sculpt, I don't think it looks exactly like Jason Momoa. I mean, you can tell that there is some semblance of him in this sculpt. I just don't think, like, it looks a little bit like him, like a very cartoony version of it. I honestly think it looks more like Rob Zombie, the heavy metal musician. If you don't know him, you could Google him, but I think that it looks more like him than it does Jason Momoa. Plus, he doesn't have the nick in his eyebrow. Both of his eyebrows are intact, which that could be easily fixed. But in real life, Jason Momoa has a cut on his face, and his eyebrow is separated. So that would have been a nice detail to get on this figure, but it's not. So maybe that's another reason I don't think it looks totally like Jason Momoa, is because, you know, that's kind of a signature thing of his look, and they didn't put that in there. But the hair, I think the hair looks really nice. How it's that dark brown, has that light brown dry brushing over it. I think that looks really nice. Like from behind, it looks like Jason Momoa. And then you turn it around, and then you see this. But I liked everything else on the figure. It's honestly a nitpick of mine, because I know that Mattel has been stepping up their DC Multiverse figures, and I try not to complain too much about the sculpt, you know, but I just don't think this one. I think the previous version, maybe that's another reason. The previous version of Aquaman looks more like Jason Momoa from BVS. Like, you can see that has the nick out of the eyebrow, and I think this one looks like Jason Momoa. If you look at it, you'd think these two were totally different characters. If you didn't know, like, just if I did that, these look like two different characters, you know? And I think this one looks more like Jason Momoa. So he's got some really nice sculpting all over his armor. He's got this kind of fish-like texture, like fishnet kind of texture to his armor. And then he has a dry brushing of gold over the green. And I think it looks really nice. And the shoulder pads are a very bendy plastic, durable plastic, so that way it doesn't hinder his articulation any. There you can see his chest armor. I like the armor, how it has like this gold piece down the middle. I think the whole, like, all of the sculpting on this figure is very phenomenal. It's got a lot of great details and paint detail, because you can see that it's just green and dry brushed with orange over it, or that gold kind of color. It kind of looks orange to me, like an orangish gold kind of color. And there's his arms. Well, of course you know it's his arms, but there's his gauntlet. And I also think that his hand is just really, really big, like for his body. Like his arm, his forearm is, you know, kind of smaller, and then you get these gigantic hand, or this gigantic hand. And I think this hand is the correct size, but I think this one is just too big. It kind of looks cartoony to me, because this hand is very, you know, it's normal proportions. And then you get this hand that's just really big, and it kind of looks funny to me. And you get his leg armor. Like, right here is his belt, and you can tell that that's orange. Like, up here, the armor's gold, and then down here, it's orangish, like, orangish gold. So, I do like the variation in color with the, like, orangish gold collars. So, that looks nice. And one thing that I thought was kind of odd is I do like the leg articulation, but when you move it, you get that. I think that the knee pad right here should have been attached right here. That way, when you bent it, the knee pad bent with the knee. You know what I'm saying? So, it doesn't bother me. I just think it would have made more sense to have the knee pad attached right here to the knee and not be above the knee. And then there's his leg armor. Some more great sculpting detail. And you got his shoes. Really no sculpting detail. There's just a little bit of marbling on the plastic, but that's about it. And on the bottom, nothing more. I actually thought that with all the sculpting going on this figure, he might have soles sculpted into the bottoms of his feet. So now I'm going to go over his articulation. He's got a ball-jointed head that can look up just a little bit. See, like older Mattel DC Multiverse figures don't have a ball-jointed head. They have like a weird kind of swivel joint that hinders the articulation. So Aquaman can actually look up, and he can look down, and he can move side to side somewhat. The shoulder pads do hinder that, because the shoulder pads, let me see, when you move, you can see that he's moving these shoulder pads, and I don't want to break them by doing that. He's got ball-jointed shoulders that can move all the way out. He's got a swivel at the bicep, single-jointed elbow, and a swivel wrist. He's got a swivel at the waist, no ab crunch or anything. I really don't think he needs it, because I think that would have interrupted all the nice sculpting going on his abs and stuff. So I think that would have, you know, interrupted the sculpt a little bit, and I don't think it would have came out as nicely as it did if there would have been articulation there. So I understand why Mattel did that. He's got ball-jointed hips that can do a complete split. He can kick forward that far and back that far. He's got a single-jointed knee that has a swivel to it. I would have preferred a swivel at the thigh, because that wouldn't really interrupt the sculpt at all. It would just be a little swivel. So I would have preferred a little bit of swivel. That way you could get him into a heroic pose. Like with that single-jointed knee, you can just kind of do that with him. You really can't move his leg like you could if he had a swivel at the thigh. And he has a swivel at the ankle that can move up and down. So overall, I really like this figure, and I have a little bit of problems with it, like the hand being closed. I would have preferred an open hand, and the head really doesn't look like Jason Momoa, but I still think it's a phenomenal figure. It's definitely an improvement from the BVS version, other than the head sculpt. Let me get him to stand there. And I've got to pose this Aquaman back, because I still had him on his knees from where I was had him close up to the camera. So here he is next to his BVS appearance version. And you can see, like, this figure kind of looks odd because of the way, like, his like he's shaped. It kind of looks like he's trying to suck his gut in. Oops, dropped his trident. I think that looks a little funny. But I definitely like this new version better. I think the armor looks really awesome. I just like it better than this version. And while we're at it, let's just see if you can switch the tridents out. Well, I'm sure you can, since it's the same thing, just a different color. So there is Aquaman with the BVS version's trident. I like that better. I think that looks cooler. Oh, I wish I could get him to stand up, or just stay. The swivel on his ankles are a little loose, so he kind of just tends to fall over. And finally, here he is next to the BVS Batman figure. You can see that he is taller than Batman, which is accurate. So I think that's really awesome. I do have the new version, the Justice League movie version, but I haven't reviewed that yet, so I won't show that off just yet. So that's my review. And if you like this review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.